Greetings, cultists of the Sith Eternal and dark acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the channel. King Adas is one of the most powerful Sith Lords to ever live, unifying the Sith tribes on his homeworld of Korriban, the ancient Sith Holy World, and ruling over the Sith tribes and dealing with his enemies like it was playtime, much similar to Master Yoda's duel with Darth Sidious in the Senate chambers, many 25,000 years later, after Adas's death. Today, join us as we delve into the ancient history and myths of King Adas, scouring the galaxy for holocrons, scrolls, and talismans depicting his ancient lifespan and his many hundred years of life, and unifying the Sith colonies on his homeworld of Korriban, and soon to be the Sith homeworld where the Dark Jedi would be exiled by the Jedi Order. Join us, acolytes, as we delve into the mysteries of the Sith. It is important to note before we begin that a lot of the Jedi and Force-attuned beings that scour our archives have not actually subscribed yet, and if you are enjoying the daily Star Wars lore that we upload here on the channel, I implore you to use the Force to influence the subscribe button into a dull grey tone. With that out of the way, acolytes, let's begin and delve into the story of one of the oldest and most powerful Sith Lords to ever live. More than 25,000 years ago, the Sith were unified by the long-lived King Adas, who led the revolt against Rakatan invaders and subsequently acquired Rakatan technology. Such words were uttered by Sevis Var upon King Adas and his campaign. A Sith male, Adas was born on the planet Korriban, the ancient holy world of the Sith, playing host to one of the grandest dark side Force nexuses in the entire galaxy. Born at least 3,000 years before the formation of the Galactic Republic, putting his birth sometime during the reign of the Rakatan Infinite Empire, an evil, amphibious, dark side adept species that used the Force to power and create their unique technology and technological advancements over the rest of the galaxy. Due to his charcoal-colored pigmentation of his flesh, which was unusual for the normal red-skinned Sith species that were native to Korriban. This is a huge thing in Star Wars lore, as according to my research and study of the ancient Sith, no other being or Sith has ever had black skin, a part of the native Sith species. Not even the immensely powerful and nigh omnipotent Tenebrae, also known as Vitiate and Valkorion, the immortal Emperor of Zakul, with him having red skin in his original form before adopting the form of Darth Vitiate, falling black on his black and obsidian robes and becoming one with the darkness. Darth Vitiate is noted throughout Sith scrolls and talismans as one of the most powerful Sith of all time, meaning that Adas, possessing a charcoal-colored pigmentation on his flesh, and Vitiate, despite being the same species as Adas, a native Sith pureblood, did not, is incredibly important to Star Wars lore. As he grew older, he grew to be substantial in size and displayed great intelligence and prowess in his skill in combat. Adas was also particularly adept in the use of Sith magic, otherwise referred to as Sith sorcery. He encased himself in a suit of spiked, ebon armor and was armed with an oversized, alchemically forged battle axe using Sith alchemy and magic to augment its physical power. It should be noted that a normal Sith Massassi warrior, is equivalent to a bodyguard in the human world, is needed to wield one of these axes. However, Adas effortlessly used both his arms and wielded two. This is an incredible feat in Star Wars lore, and is one of Adas's greatest feats in Star Wars. In 28,000 BBY, Adas took his axe to his fellow Sith in a series of brutal conflicts, eventually uniting and saving all of his desperate nations on his homeworld, consolidating all the rogue Sith tribes on Korriban, and unifying the nations of his homeworld. In doing so, Adas became the undisputed and unchallenged ruler and king of Korriban. The general perception held by his people was that he would live forever and reign eternal, and that he was envisioned by his subjects as a god king of Korriban, similar to Darth Andedu and Darth Vitiate, who were both immensely powerful. The period of his rule eventually became known in the Sith history as the Reign of the Axe, and over time, Adas was given the moniker of Sith Ari, meaning Lord or Overlord. The Sith Ari prophecy was very important in Star Wars lore, as we know, if you are a fan of Star Wars Legends and the continuity of Legends, that Darth Bane was the Sith Ari, not Palpatine. Vader might have been if he had not have been dissected and crippled on Mustafar by the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but not Adas. However, this meant that he was given much greater privileges and luxuries than any other being. Adas was 300 old when the Rakardan Infinite soldiers of the Infinite Empire moved against Korriban, hoping to overtake the fueled dark side energy and use it to feed and fuel their technologies, which was currently waning. At first, the aliens began to teach and tutor King Adas of how to record his essence into a device called a holocron in an attempt to lure the Sith ruler into their confidence and then slay him using their immense dark side power. Putting his newfound knowledge to use, Adas created his own holocron, and possibly the first holocron to ever be created by a non-Rakardan Infinite Empire being. Although the device that he created became more of a testament to his accomplishments than a teaching device, passing down his knowledge from subject to subject throughout the many millennia to come of the Sith. Eventually, though, the Rakardan were more blatant in their actions and attempted to conquer the Sith homeworld, using their Force-based technology in order to overrun Korriban. Adas had prepared his plan, gathering his forces in a large army on the fields of Korriban, barren with invading red and orange sand, to face the invading Rakardan Infinite Empire soldiers, who landed their ships as the king's soldiers chanted their leader's name of Adas. The Sith were more than able to defend themselves, using their natural affinity to the dark side of the Force in complete conjunction with one another and driving the Rakardan back, and Adas refusing to tolerate their actions even in his extremely advanced age, over 3 centuries old, is incredible for a normal Sith pureblood, led his people to a vehement defense of Korriban. He participated in the brutal and punitive action, driving back the invaders with his massive dual-bladed axe. Adas, during his reign, was undisputedly and unquestionably the most powerful being, and possibly most powerful Sith of his generation, and possibly of all time up to that point. As in the Battle of Korriban and the Battle of the Retaking of Korriban, Adas used his genius-level intellect of the time to capture the Rakardan starships, powered by the dark side, and used his indomitable will to turn them and malform them against the invaders who had created them. Adas's immense forces pushed on from Korriban and reached Zeos, Malachor 5, and Tund. Zeos and Malachor 5 would become immensely crucial Sith worlds in the years to come, with one being devoured by Tenebrae in order to replenish his strength, and Malachor 5 becoming the headstrong base of the Sith Triumvirate. The Sith Triumvirate consisting of Sion, Traya, and Nihilus, 3 of the most powerful Sith to ever live, with one of them, in my opinion, being more powerful than any to ever live. However, in securing what he hoped would be a future of freedom for his people, Adas unfortunately perished during these battles. A Sith named Yashar Kale gained the title Portrayer of Adas around this time, before being captured by a Rakardan. He gained this title under the assumption that he killed Adas during this battle while he was weakened, as he knew that no matter what happened, no one could ever stand up to the might of King Adas while he was still alive. Adas's legacy lived on for many millennia to come, with Sorza Sin learning about the prophecy of the Sith Ari and learning about ancient texts depicting Adas's rule of the axe. She stated this: while some among the Kasai priests deem that the prophecy began and ended with King Adas, many more await the Sith Ari's return. She possibly was hinting at the future, with Darth Bane coming to destroy the Sith and make them stronger than before, bringing about the Baneite era and the rule of 2. Without the stabilizing influence of Adas as King of Korriban, Korriban once again devolved into a state of constant and undying civil war, with all the Sith clans hoping to seek as much power as they can and grasp for whatever remnants of Adas's rule remain, with many attempting to claim the false title of Sith Ari. Some Sith prophesied that the perfect being would one day arise once again assume the position of the Sith Ari, which finally being revealed to be Darth Bane, the father of the rule of two, although another of the Kisai priests, one of the sects of the Sith species, along with the Masasai, believes that Adas was the only true Sith Ari and that the prophecy had begun and ended with him. As a result of this internal strife, the Sith capital was relocated to Ziost, an ancient Sith world that would later be devoured by the life force of Tenebrae. Details of Adas's exploits were later recorded by the Sith in the holocron of King Naklu. At some point, a mural depicting him and his great glory was painted on the Mongrel altar, a monument situated on the Sith holy world of Korriban. Stability eventually returned to the worlds of the Sith and their grain, and a new Sith Empire was formed, which allowed Adas's example and followed his rule of how the Sith could gain power from the leadership of a strong individual, as Darth Krayt and Darth Sidious easily stated, with Darth Vishit also being a practitioner. The only way you can be the undisputed leader of the Sith is if you are so overwhelmingly powerful that no other being in the entire galaxy dares to challenge you. Adas was clearly, during his reign, the undisputed ruler of the Sith. Almost 21,000 years after his death, a group of Dark Jedi known as the Exiles, a sect of dark side devotees that had been exiled from the Jedi Order, led by Junta Paul, Karnas Mur, and Source of Sin for studying in alchemy and ancient dark magic, landed on the planet of Korriban and subjugated and subdued the Sith people and their armies with their mastery of the Force and their superior technology, such as the unique kyber-infused blades known as lightsabers. Initially hailed as the Jedi, the Exiles managed to destroy Adas's eventual successor of that period, and were then understood by the Sith people to be gods, more powerful than even Adas had ever been, stating that Adas was nothing compared to these original Dark Jedi. Junta Paul, one of the most powerful and the leader of these exiles, was declared as the blood heir to Adas, and the Dark Jedi Source of Sin studied the accounts of Adas's reign in great depth during her time as a Sith that were detailed in the Nakgru holocron. At the time of his death, Adas had given his holocron to his second-in-command, or Shadow Hand as the Sith referred to him. The device had been handed down through the generations and was eventually granted to the newcomers, who were then hailed as Sith Lords in order to teach them in the ways of the dark side. The device was handed down through the generations, and the newcomers were eventually hailed as Sith Lords. The Sith Empire went on to thrive for many years until the events of the Great Hyperspace War of 5000 BBY, led by the oppressive Sith Naga Sadow, who had just won the battle with Ludo Kresh, where the Sith Empire suffered a massive, catastrophic defeat due to infighting, and the Galactic Republic using their tactics to outmaneuver the unexperienced strategists of the Empire. They were destroyed by the Galactic Republic and purged from the galaxy. During this conflict, Adas's holocron was lost on Ashas Re by the Sith Lord Garu in 4400 BBY. It was unveiled by the fallen Jedi Frieden Nad, with the power of Adas's teachings at his disposal, one of the most powerful Sith of that time, and undoubtedly the most powerful king of Korriban to ever live. Nad conquered and subjugated the planet Onderon, turning it into his palace. During the Beast Wars, the holocron fell into the hands of Queen Amona, wife of King Omen, who was descended from Frieden Nad himself. She too studied the ancient Sith's teachings and eventually inherited the device, passing it on to her apprentice Nova. Nova, in turn, used the holocron to instruct further Ondonorian Sith acolytes and dark-side devotees in the ways of King Adas. The dictates of the long-dead Sith kept the planet in an age of darkness, frozen in time, as the lingering spells of the dark side continued to thrive, until the Sith hold on the planet was broken by the Jedi during the Second Battle of Onderon. The Jedi recovered the device and buried it under tons of water on Kodai, in hopes that no one else would fall under Adas's immense indomitable influence. during the events known as the New Sith Wars. The Brotherhood of Darkness, one of the weakest variants of the Sith Lord, who outlawed the title of Darth. This was also the area that Darth Bane originally rose to prominence from. One of their members, Sevis Var, researched the worlds of the Sith Empire and covered Adas's reigns in his writings over Korriban. His research was later collected by Emperor Sheev Palpatine, also known as Darth Sidious, and one of the most powerful Sith to ever live, in the Telos Holocron, the contents of which were later published by Jedi Master Tinoe Solazar in 40 ABY, 40 years after the destruction of the first Death Star. In 29 BBY, 10 years before the fall of the Great Galactic Republic and the event of the Second Jedi Purge, Norval, a student of Jedi historian Merkalandu, revealed the holocron, recovering it from the ancient depths of which it was hidden. The device was subsequently confiscated by Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the most famous and well-known Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jedi Masters to ever live, and turned over to the Jedi High Council. The Council, in turn, entrusted Adas's holocron to the Library of House Pelagaya in the Tapani sector, praying that it would not fall into the hands of the infamous Sith Lord Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious dispatched Karnal Jax's father, a sun guard, to retrieve Adas's holocron for his own personal study, in order to augment his physical stature and to use his dark side teachings in Sith magic and alchemy and further his abilities in these trades. But the man failed and, as a result, was killed by the Sith Lord during the Great Jedi Purge that began in 19 BBY and ran for around a decade. Macrosa Order agent Sir Neville Tiratum infiltrated the House Pelaga Library, killing 3 Jedi that guarded the device with their lives. He brought it back to his superiors. It eventually fell into the possession of the Dark Lady Lumaya, who returned it to Korriban, where she afterwards resided for some time. It was noted in ancient Sith scrolls and stated by Source of Sin that when Adas roared, other Sith rushed to his side or fled in terror. He saved the foolish and executed the idealists. When warriors challenged him in single combat, he drank their blood soup to honor their deaths, as none were ever strong enough to face him. Adas was considered and envisioned to be both a monarch and a god to his people of the Sith, and during the end of his reign, Adas was given the title of Sith Ari, the perfect dark side entity and abomination bestowed upon him by the Force according to ancient legend, depicting a dark side being that would vanquish the lie and would eventually destroy the Sith and then remake them stronger than before. Adas was a fierce and nigh unstoppable combatant on the battlefield, a respected though inflexible ruler. Adas was still feared millennia after his death by many Sith. He preyed on the timid, enslaved those and all he considered foolish, executed idealists without mercy, and was highly deserving of the weak. His essence, recorded in his own holocron, would refuse to pass on its teachings to anyone who it did not deem worthy, and the spirit of Adas did not deem worthy, though his holocron was generally reluctant to pass on its instruction and knowledge. It did not have the extraordinary power to affect the minds of its people in its presence when activated, though initiates such as Nova were granted access to Adas's own teachings. The Sixth Kings and King of Korriban's essence would threaten anyone who dared to fail him. When challenged by rival warriors, Adas would kill them and drink their blood soup to honor their demise. He possessed a red-bladed Force Saber, the weapons preceding the lightsabers that were augmented with Sith alchemy and Sith magic in order to make them nigh unstoppable and parallel to the power and potency of a lightsaber blade. And also during combat he wielded a pair of battle axes, carrying one in each hand, displaying his immense physical strength that was unrivaled by any for his time. So friends, that was the complete story and life of the great King of Korriban, King Adas. I hope you enjoyed this video as we delve into the ancient Sith lore yet again. This will not be the last video we cover on King Adas, as he has influenced and sparked the life of many of my favourite Sith Lords, including Darth Sidious being one of the most powerful and most well-liked Sith Lords, being dominating and completely oppressive over the galaxy after he instigated the Great Jedi Purge. by completely manipulating the Jedi Order. Acolytes, I hope you enjoy this. Prepare your ships and don your Jedi robes. Adorn yourselves with lightsabers, talismans, and force-imbued objects. I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away, and I'll see you in the Valley of the Dark Lords. If you survive, that is.